Start streaming. Stream starting.
Let me know when you're ready for me to start the music.
Start the streamings.
Are you starting the streaming?
The streamings are in good health.
When can I start the music? Oh, let me go to patreon.com/host scheduled. Oh, are we streaming? Let me look.
Are we live on the things?
Live streaming. Get out of here. Get this something live stream. This Rick comes. Oh, it looks like we're streaming.
Okay. Boom.
All right. Ooh. Boom.
All right. We got our live dashboard. I think it's about time to start a podcast, brother.
Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Ooh.
Gotta get warmed up.
Gotta
stretch it out.
Gotta feel a little frisky.
Big thanks to J1 and J2 for hanging out in the pre-show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Just
J1 says everything is G to G. Hello,
G to G is so great.
All right. Are we ready to go, Travis?
yeah. Count me down.
We've been ready to go. Okay. 5.
let me get all the coughs out.
Oh, I have 2 beers open.
I got some strong stuff here.
Forget which one's open. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
10, 9. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, stop. Hold on.
Oh, fuck. Fuck. Oh, you.
We're doing it live.
Okay, we're doing it live. What happened?
When I was doing my levels earlier, I didn't go back to the beginning. So now I'm ready.
Okay, now you're ready. Okay, all right. Now, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming to you live from the Citadel of Travis's, where there's a bunch of Rick and Morty podcasters running around. A pair of them need to be the official ones. Not us, though. We're Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast.
Hello, everybody. I'm Travis.
Hello, everybody, and I am Brandon.
Welcome to Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast. So happy you could join us as we wind down on this long-winded recap of season 1.
Winding down. So winding. Much down.
Much wind. Thanks to everybody checking us out live on Patreon right now, and for those of you that were able to hang out with us in the pre-show. If you want to support the show on Patreon, you can head over to patreon.com/rickandmortypod to get some cool perks and get like video versions of the show, all kinds of cool stuff. So go check that out.
So you can see all of Travis's wacky antics.
Yeah, and my toys and my shirt.
Look
the same 3 shirts I recycle through each episode so that I stay on brand.
For the people watching right now, tweet about how just wacky Travis is being right now. Look at it. Oh, he's so wacky. Wacky.
You're clearly the wacky one, Brandon.
It's never been wackier.
If you want to tweet at us, you can follow us on Twitter at Rick and Morty Pod. Over on Facebook, facebook.com/Rick and Morty Podcast. We have a subreddit, rickandmortypodcast.reddit.com.
That's right.
And we have emails. Let me get my reading glasses on here. Rick and Morty Podcast @gmail.com. All of this stuff is available over at apatheticenthusiasm.com. Yeah. Cool. Go do it. Buy a shirt. Buy this shirt.
That's a nice shirt.
TeePublic. Yeah, it's got our
shirt,
faces. It's got our cartoon faces on it.
Did you know Andrew Lincoln is leaving The Walking Dead? Did you know that? It was in the news.
I left The Walking Dead a long time ago.
Oh, the joke on Twitter is he's leaving in season 9, 4 seasons after everybody else left. The audience wise. Okay.
There you go. Sorry, Coral. All right. Well, seeing as we are already talking about news, why not just get right into it and discuss some semi-pertinent news?
Semi-pertinent news. Ding, 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 ding. Semi-pertinent news. That's a Yingling. That's a Yingling can, bringing you semi-pertinent news every week. on
Who
the
knew
hour.
a full beer can could be used as a musical instrument?
I have 2 Yinglings.
Fraternity brothers everywhere knew that. That's the answer.
I know this is sacrilege, but let me just say, Yingling is good. It's a good beer, but it's like people who aren't from California who are like, I don't get in and out. I just don't get it.
Well, that's our show, everybody. Thanks. No, I mean, I
everyone in the Northeast. Obviously, I don't like you.
We just lost so many listeners, Brandon. Unity was crushed this day. No, I mean, Unity's good, yes, but Yingling is also good. I like me some lager. All right, let's talk about some semi-pertinent news. Not too many crazy things happening in the world of Rick and Morty over the last couple of weeks, but I was able to pull up a couple of news articles. And first up, I want to talk about some Zelda 3DS flipping, which is a Vice article that was kind of repeated across the internet. And it is alluding to a clip from I think it was from Total Recall, where they're talking about Rick, and it's a memory of him like running in and freaking out over these exclusive gold 3DSs that are like branded for Legend of Zelda, and he's like, "Hey, they're selling them at like Toys R Us for only like $70, but we could flip these for like 250 or whatever and just get profit." And he's like freaking out and running around the house because he wants to buy all these.
Right. It was one of his false memories, but it was real. It's a real memory.
It's a real memory because apparently Justin Roiland really did it.
Yes, it's autobiographical. I said that weird. It sounded weird, didn't it? Autobiographical.
And honestly, this is one of those situations where I'm curious if the discussion in the writer's room, I don't think this was a situation where Justin was like, let's write this into the show. I think they were like, what would be a crazy thing to get excited about? And then some of the writers were like, well, remember how excited Justin got the other day about those 3DSs? How about we just write that? Which I hope is how it actually came about. I don't know for sure. But yeah, it turns out Justin really did buy a whole crap ton of these 3DSs, and now he is trying to sell some of them. He's drawn on the boxes to make them a little bit more of a collector's item. But he's hawking one for like $1,000 on the internet. So, hey, good Jordan.
Do it to it. And I think it said in the article that he donated a bunch to a children's hospital as well.
Yeah, like he felt bad about being a scalper. So he's like, all right, I'll like donate some of these to a children's hospital, and somehow my moral compass will be realigned or something like that. I don't know.
That's right. We don't have this in semi-pertinent news, but we have been tweeting a lot. This goes based off of merchandise. Right. The Cryptozoic, we've been retweeting these pictures that have been coming out from Cryptozoic. They're working on a Rick and Morty trading card,
collection.
Collection. Mm-hmm. And they're getting a bunch of awesome artwork, and they've gotten Justin Roiland to sign a bunch of cards that obviously you'll be able to find in some of these packs. Also, did the voice of Snowball. I think Tom Kenny signed something. Yeah, Tom Kenny signed something.
Tom Kenny did sign something, yeah.
I mean, he's not the voice of Snowball. He's a chair in this episode. But yeah, like those are really cool. So go check those out as well. Cryptozoic, who also, they've created some fantastic Rick and Morty games, which we might talk about one today.
Like this Total Recall one that I have in my hand and have still never played.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so that's that. The next up, live action Dreamcast. No, we're not talking about the Sega quasi failed system.
Hey, Dreamcast was underrated. I never owned one, but everybody loved their Dreamcast.
I trust everyone who says that it was underrated. Power Gems, I think that was a game. Okay, Crazy Taxi.
Oh, Crazy Taxi. This is an apathetic enthusiasm conversation if I ever heard one.
So over on Reddit, there was a post talking about what your Dreamcast would be for a Rick and Morty live action movie.
Yeah. The post is like the picture associated with it alluded to the fact that if you look at the voice actors for Jerry and Beth, Sarah Chalke and Chris Parnell, they kind of look like they could play the live action versions of the characters. So the question that was presented was, what would be a good casting for a live action version, and what if they did that as an element of the show? What if maybe Rick and Morty go through a portal and accidentally stumble upon a live action version of themselves? Who would you want to see in those roles? I'm gonna put you on the spot, Brandon. Do you have any particular actors or actresses that you would cast for something like that?
I do. Thank you for asking.
Oh, you're welcome.
For the role of Rick, I would put Justin Roiland in a Rick costume. For the role of Morty,
also Justin Roiland.
Also Justin Roiland, but in a Morty costume. And then for a Squanch, I'd put a Tom Kenny. I'd put Tom Kenny in a Squanch costume.
Are you just gonna cast all the voice actors for all their actual? And then Dan Harmon could come in as Bird Person.
Yeah.
And,
Brandon Johnson, I'd pull him in. He could do Mr. Goldenfold.
Yeah, perfect. Way to be super original, Brandon.
I haven't really thought of it. I haven't thought. I know some people out there are like, oh yeah, get Willem Dafoe to do Rick.
Yeah, I also like the idea that somebody had on there saying, don't cast Rick and Morty and just have like almost like a POV shot or something of them looking at a room, and it's Spencer Grammer and Sarah Chalke and Chris Parnell like sitting around the table or something.
It would be like that music video for crap. Well,
Sledgehammer.
Yeah. The Sledgehammer music video. Exactly right. Which is all about sexual renaissance. You want to talk about Peter Gabriel and Sledgehammer and how it's him learning that, oh man, I can have sex with a lot of people, so I'm gonna write a song called Sledgehammer. Do you want to talk about that right now?
And then do a really choppy stop motion animated video with like trains going around your head and stuff.
God, so good. It's such a. I mean, he's on Spotify now.
Sorry, hey, kids, go to YouTube, look up the Sledgehammer music video.
Ladies and gentlemen, go out to check out Peter Gabriel. All of his albums are streaming on Spotify now.
Sledge. All right. I guess that's. I mean, there wasn't a ton of semi-pertinent news happening this week, and we're doing our best to try and keep up, but we are between seasons. And how do you follow 70 new episodes being announced? But the Rickmobile is rolling along. Did you see the pictures of the Yuto truck that is joining the Rickmobile on the road?
That's not my pertinent news. Why didn't you put that in there?
I just thought of it because I was surfing Reddit earlier and I saw it. But yeah, so I think the Rickmobile itself is no longer sufficient for carrying all of the exclusive merch that they're selling.
Because they kept running out of merch last year.
This is true. So they have another like semi-truck, and they painted the back of it to look like a Yuto truck. So it looks like the moving truck that can be seen in the very first episode, as well as I think it's the season 3 premiere, where you hear "loser" as Jerry is moving out of the family home.
That's right. And if you want to see one of us there representing the podcast, check out Tampa or somewhere in Omaha.
Lincoln, Nebraska, I think is the stop I'll be visiting. So
okay,
yeah,
whatever.
College Town, go
USA,
go Huskers, or I think that's the thing.
I've been to Iowa City. Let's not talk about that. One last bit of semi-pertinent news. Of course, it's a Dan Harmon tweeting minute. He hasn't actually tweeted in a minute. The last tweet we got from him was May 15th, and he writes, "That's all for now. Twitter is a puke river. Bye."
I think this segment needs to be retooled as the Dan Harmon Instagram minute, because he's still very active on Instagram, but not so much on Twitter. He's stepping away, which is somewhat for his mental health.
It's toxic a little bit. The tweet before this was I don't know if it was actually it was before this. Maybe it was back in April. Twitter is a place for insecure people, I think is what that tweet said.
And if you want to follow us on Twitter, make sure you follow us at Rick and Morty Pod.
At Rick and Morty Pod, at Jugglemino, at Steve the Hab.
Yeah, that's us. Follow us and let's all be insecure together.
Yes.
Float along the puke river with me.
Okay. Well, Travis.
Any more news, Brandon? I feel like that's the way the news goes.
Oh, I don't have.
You don't have that on your
one.
soundboard?
That's the way
I do have it on
the
there.
news goes.
All right. Well,
I do actually. No, I do have. I do have one more thing. I did send out a tweet today. It was pretty good. If I do say so myself, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because I forget what it is.
you forgot what you're.
No, it was
the news is that you sent a tweet that you thought was good, but not good enough to remember.
Let me get
until later that day.
It was to Erica Hayes, right? She
Erica Hayes, storyboard artist.
That's right. She's starting a new job today, and then she posted a picture of her in front of a Big Mouth picture.
Yeah, a
right?
couple of characters from the Netflix series Big Mouth.
And so I said, "What show is it? Give us some kind of hint." And then some at Spinks Thinks responded, "The characters in the background are from Big Mouth on Netflix." And I responded, "Any kind of hint will do." And eventually Spinks Thinks came back and said, "I see what you've done here," with a laughy emoji. So I feel like I'm really and Erica liked my tweet.
You're really like a nautical master on this river of puke that is Twitter.
Fucking puke river Twitter.
No, I'm really glad that your follow-up tweet kind of set your tone correctly, because I will be 100% honest with you, Brandon. When you first showed me the screenshot of that interaction, I read your tweet and I was like, he doesn't get what. Oh, it's Brandon. He's being sarcastic. That's right.
Yeah, I get it. I wouldn't have gotten it either.
And that's the kind of antics you can find on Twitter if you follow us over there. All right, enough lollygagging. It's time for the main thing.
It's the main thing. It's the main thing. Main thing. Main thing.
With percussion.
Yeah, I was trying to channel my best Nick Cannon.
Yeah.
In the hit Drumline.
Ooh, don't hate on Drumline, man. It's classic.
I'm not hating on Drumline. That's a badass movie, man. Those guys they fucking rock.
What's the other drumming movie I really like, Brandon?
What's that movie with the tagline? It's not called Gymnastics.
No, that's definitely not it.
It's a gymnastics movie, but they say it's not gymnastics. I love that.
I don't know what that is. I'm thinking of the one with the dude that used to play. Gosh, it's all right. We'll move on.
Mark Wahlberg, Rockstar.
No, the guy that played the runner of the Daily Planet in the old Spider-Man movies, and
oh yeah, Whiplash. Fantastic.
Yes, fantastic movie. All right,
one for editing. Okay,
back to Interdimensional RSS. If you want to hear us have those conversations, check out Apathetic Enthusiasm.
Yep.
We are down to the final 2 episodes of season 1. This week we are discussing Close Encounters of the Rick Kind, originally aired April 7th, 2014, written by Ryan Ridley, directed by Steven Sandoval.
Which, by the way, that's my great-grandfather's name. His name was Salvador Sandoval.
Oh, okay.
Salvador Sandoval.
I almost called him Ryan Riddles Ridley, but
oh man, I miss that guy. So synopsis. Here we go. Brought to you by Reddit.com/Rick and Morty. A year has passed since Rick reunited with Beth and the family, and in the midst of a breakfast celebration, a group of armed and uniformed Ricks emerge from an interdimensional portal. Accusing him of crimes against alternate Ricks, he and Morty are then handcuffed and taken through the portal to the Council of Ricks. Near the end of the episode, it is revealed that Evil Rick was being remotely controlled by Evil Morty, who is the mastermind responsible for killing the alternate Ricks and kidnapping alternate Mortys. I also want to point out that at the very, very beginning of the episode, the cold open, Evil Morty and Evil Rick come and kill a Rick out of nowhere while he's just trying to enjoy
some fluffy cakes with the right amount of syrup on them. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll start out with some age-old Reddit discussion points before we get into some of our additional thoughts on this episode. And one of the first things you have in here, and it's hard for me to tackle this question on here because we've talked about fan theories in the past.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of fan theories associated with this episode, and you have them listed.
I do. I want to. I don't know if I want to ask this question to start, but I will because I already brought it up, and I'll forget it if I don't.
Okay.
Do you think that fan theories were as prevalent before this episode?
I have no idea because I didn't start watching the show until well after the season was over.
Let me rephrase the question then. When you started watching this show and you were watching it in order, do you think this episode would have kickstarted your fan theorizing?
I think this is an episode that definitely gets the gears going as far as, is there a much bigger story happening here? The way that the episode ends, it leaves with that just iconic music now at this point for Rick and Morty, and Evil Morty is kind of walking off into back into hiding, and nothing is truly resolved, and it makes you start to think outside of this singular episode where you think, okay, maybe there is something bigger going on here. Clearly there was some sort of conspiracy to frame Rick C-137. So maybe there is a bigger story happening here as you punch your microphone.
As I punch my microphone at 20 minutes and 38 seconds, so I can cut that out. Yeah, you're right. When we visit Cronenberg World, and it's the first time that we actually kill, we see like any other version of Rick and Morty. I think, that wasn't theory inducing necessarily. That's just kind of like, oh, well, there's possibilities. Oh, I can see some possibilities. But for me, I don't think my theory crafting would have kickstarted until this episode, where it's like, oh, there are a ton of different Ricks and Mortys out there, and just knowing that there's an arc that is left unresolved so early on in the series with Evil Morty is like, well, shit. There's a tide of change, and there's a change a coming. And what is it going to be? Like, this speaks to a higher thing. And the line that Rick says about, you don't want a cocky Morty, right? Morty too big for his britches or whatever. And I'll tell you when you're older.
Yeah, which is something I mean, we can dig into now, but it's something I'd put in the notes a little bit later, because that is a really confusing sort of thought behind this show in general, because they really do avoid time travel for the most part, right? And there are theories that maybe there's like a circular thing going on, that Mortys grow up to become Ricks and all this other stuff. Like there's a lot of theories like that I've seen, but my belief is that all of these dimensions are taking place on essentially the same timeline. We don't see a bunch of Ricks that are in varying ages. All the Ricks tend to be the same age. All the Mortys tend to be the same age.
Yeah.
So what basis does Rick have in that statement to say, oh, you don't want to see what happens when a Morty gets too cocky, right? Like, where is he pulling? Is it maybe there are some 10-year-old Mortys that got a little ahead of themselves? But the way that line is delivered, it feels like it's a well-known thing amongst Ricks that you can't let a Morty get out of line. And I feel like that had to have happened within the last 14 years or whatever, because that's how old Morty is, right? Like
do you take that into account? And when we started these rewatches for season 1, we wanted to stray away from anything in season 3. But do you think, as comparison's sake, knowing how the Ricks react to Mortys, still kind of indifferent and be like, whatever, Mortys aren't capable, that using that as context for this episode, this Rick C-137 it's not common knowledge, it's not universal Rick knowledge that a Morty too big for his britches is a bad thing, but for his personal experience, it is a bad thing.
Yeah, I could see that. And we get the first glimpse in this of Rick's memories of what Rick may have experienced prior to coming back and living with the Smith family, which includes him picking up a baby Morty. And I think we can expand on that a little bit. But yeah, we don't know all of Rick's previous experiences. We don't know for sure that this is the first Morty that he's really been with. We make the assumption that this is, his Morty that from the same dimension, but there have been the theories that even down to the title sequence, the Morty that dies in the title sequence, or that we assume is eaten, that some people think that was his original Morty, or some people think that's Evil Morty that comes back and rebels because Rick left him behind. And like, some of that I feel is really reaching, but there really may be something to this idea that Rick has experience with Mortys, even if it is only a few years in the past, that maybe does give him a little bit more knowledge about how capable Mortys can become if not repressed by a Rick.
Right. So the question that we have on here, and I think you read it already, but which fan theory seems the most plausible or bullshit, and why? And so I do have a few here. The Rick is Rick. Rick is Morty. The Rick we've been following didn't start with the Morty we've been following, which you mentioned already. The Morty is the Morty from the opening scene. Let's see. The Rick is Rick has unmatched intelligence, cunning, and creativity. The Morty may actually have his own gift. The Jerry is Jerry, and our Rick isn't the Rickest. Which of those? We'll just start. Which is the most plausible for you? Which is the most bullshit?
Some real dead air here.
Yeah, this is so good. This is so good for everyone listening. I mean, maybe
I'm gonna say the Jerry is Jerry. I'm gonna throw that one right out because I don't feel like. I feel like that's really just
Jerry.
Somebody developing, trying to apply the Rickest Rick across to Jerry's. And I mean, there's probably a Jerry that's more pathetic than the rest, which you could maybe refer to as the Jerryest Jerry. But I feel like it doesn't matter. It's inconsequential.
Yeah. I mean, and the Jerryest Jerry is kind of addressed in the comics with Doofus Jerry, who's just a badass. So
right.
So I would agree with you there.
I'm gonna say Rick is Morty is the total BS one. That's the one that I do not. There have been times I think where even the writers or animators have have purposefully done things to kind of poke at that theory.
Yeah.
Especially in season 3. But I don't buy that one at all. And I don't think that the whole show is going to end up being this loop where Mortys grow up and turn into Ricks and then go on adventures with their grandson Morty. I don't see it. I don't see it.
The main reason I think that is bullshit, and I agree with you, 100% bullshit. The other one's like, okay, yeah, maybe we can work it in. But the Rick is Morty is garbage, and here's why I think that. Because Jerry and Beth have to have sex and they have to have a kid, and it has to be
a little bit pathetic, but a little bit capable.
Yeah, and okay, maybe the theory posits that Morty then grows up to be a Rick, and then he goes back in time. So that basically means that his mom is his daughter, and that's. Look, we're not trying to do Futurama here, okay? Yeah. We're trying to Fry is his own grandfather. We don't need to do that.
And yeah, I mean, so and this is a very select list. This is, I think, a more condensed list to very much only factoring in season 1. There have been a lot more fan theories that have been presented, but yeah. And again, I just want to reiterate, I think, our standing opinion about fan theories when it comes to the show, which is I personally don't think the writers have a whiteboard somewhere or a secret manila envelope that has all of the gotchas that the
like a game of Clue, like,
right? Yeah,
like in the game of Clue, you're like,
there's just 3 cryptozoic cards in there.
Yeah, it was Beth in the portal with the rocket boots.
Meow. Keep Summer safe. No, like, I think that they maybe have a few ideas of things, arcs, if you will, that will extend from season to season. But I don't think they're hiding a big secret. This isn't Lost, where they're like, oh, at the end of it all, it's gonna be this. They're gonna have to stick a cork back in the island. Like, no, they're writing an animated comedy with sci-fi rigmarole, and occasionally those threads are going to loop back together.
There was a couple, if you watch the season 1 commentary, and I know you did, Travis. If you watch the season 1 commentary, they make a few comments about Roiland makes a few comments about like knowing what's going on, and like, but I'm not going to say it here. I'm not going to say it here. And Ridley's like, oh, yeah, like, we actually do. Like, we actually plan this stuff out. We don't plan this stuff out. And
well, even when Ridley came on this podcast, like, he alluded to the fact that they're not really doing that sort of thing. And there were times where he didn't remember, like, certain things that were linked together because they weren't fixated on that.
Right.
And so I think as we watch it as observers and as fans, it's easy for us to maybe put those linkages together and connect certain things.
Like Harmon says, connect the dots. Fans like to connect the dots. Like with a doofus Jerry eating shit and then making brownies that look like shit. People are like, oh, like they comment that about that. Which
he was very adamant in the commentary, like he doesn't do that. Those are actual brownies. Like, come on, that's anyway.
Guys, he doesn't eat shit. Okay, like they're
just making fun of him.
He doesn't eat shit.
This is a slightly dated question, but this comes from the original rewatch post on Reddit. In what ways can you see Evil Morty coming back into the story? Do you think he has a hand in the events of season 2, or will show up again in season 3? If so, how? Well, yeah, we know that he doesn't really play into season 2, and he's definitely a big character in season 3, in possibly the biggest episode of season 3. So I will push this question a little bit further and extend it into the next 70 episodes of Rick and Morty. How often do you expect to have an appearance from now President Morty?
For me, I think making him a sporadic character every 7 to 15 episodes, I think that's a smart way to use him.
Right.
Because it's like I'm trying to think of like in pop culture a villain that doesn't always show up, but when he shows up, it's really impactful. I'd say there's like the main bad guy of Doctor Who, one of the other Time Lords who is always against him, but he doesn't always show up. He shows up randomly,
right?
And then because you don't expect him to show up, that's what makes him such a powerful villain, right? For the viewer, and
not to cut you off, I'm sorry,
yeah.
but like every time we've kind of seen Evil Morty, for lack of a better name, it's been in like a dramatic reveal, right? It wasn't until the end of this episode that we realized, oh, it's Morty actually pulling the strings and controlling that Rick. And it's not until the end of Tales of the Citadel where we realize, oh, he had this plot all along, and he's doing all these things, and so it's to stay true to form, you almost have to have an episode with Evil Morty in it where for 3/4 of it you don't realize he's the character you're watching.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. That enhances the effectiveness of the character as well, and so I think with Tales from the Citadel, Rick Lannis mix up, you could see hints of like you can kind of say like, oh, I knew that was Evil Morty the entire time, right? Because it kind of gives you that. They can have episodes where something impactful is happening throughout the course of the plot. Evil Morty, President Morty, isn't even a factor in it whatsoever, and it turns out at the end, it could be the reveal that he was behind the events.
He could be like Claw in Inspector Gadget and just like show up at the end and be like,
I'll get you next time. But I do think the effectiveness of that reveal has diminishing returns eventually. You can't always just blonde redhead every episode with Evil Morty. So they can either like keep trying to go for this Shyamalan-esque like twist, like, oh, this is him, oh, look, I'm tricking you again, or they can start incorporating him in different ways to keep his sinister aspect.
And
really
I think the challenge that they have going forward is like with Tales from the Citadel, or as the Rick Lantis mix-up as it was actually called, like that was an episode where we didn't focus on Rick and Morty from C-137 at all. And they completely did a departure from those characters. So for them to be able to write in an episode that focuses exclusively on Evil Morty, they're either going to have to pull another one of those sort of like switcheroo type deals, or somehow they end up bringing, Rick and Morty back to the Citadel or something. I don't know how that's going to go down. And really the timeline for me is all kinds of wonky too, because the Tales from the Citadel, like I thought the Citadel was destroyed in the season premiere, but then it still existed. I don't know if we talked about this at length during season 3. I know this is a season 1 recap, but I'm real confused about some of that still. So
I mean we didn't talk about it, but or maybe we did. I don't know, but I mean the Citadel was very heavily damaged in the season 3 premiere, but
yeah, so I mean there's still,
but
some
they were using Morty labor in order to rebuild it,
so they were able to quickly recover from it despite the
it's basically what led into World War II with Nazism and Hitler. I mean that's
I mean realistically you're very accurate.
That's the mirroring there of history. Like there was a rebuilding of their country. There was a mass influx of immigration, and everybody needed something to blame it on.
All right, that's enough politics talk,
Okay.
Brandon. Let's move into something a little bit easier to discuss.
If you want to know more about that, please go back and look at the 1922 film Nosferatu. Okay.
All right, enough politics. Let's do something lighter. Religion. Let's talk about the one true Morty here for a little bit. So, do you think the question is who/what is the one true Morty, and then is he a delusion created by a crowd of traumatized 14-year-old kids, or is there some truth to the prophecy? What is your hot take?
What is the one true Morty? If Pocket Morty's is any indication, the one true Morty is somebody you get out of the egg that you raise. Eventually, you level up.
Gotta level them up. Gotta battle those Mortys, you know?
And eventually, the one true Morty comes out.
According to the Instagram alternate reality type video or scavenger hunt type thing, there are many instances of the one true Morty that you can go find on scattered across the galaxy.
I don't for me there's not enough evidence. Oh, look at me with evidence. Ooh, oh, you must be an atheist. Oh, you need evidence to prove your case, you fucking snowflake. So I don't know if there's enough evidence to say whether or not he's a delusion, right? Could there be some truth to prophecy? Sure. Could there be? Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
I mean,
I don't know.
If I die and I go to the pearly Morty gates and the one true Morty is there welcoming me, like all he knows is that I'm a good person, and he'll accept me.
I feel like the one true Morty is more of like a Buddha character than like a Jesus sort of character. Like,
okay.
I feel like he's more of a, like, oh, model your life as live as the one true Morty would live. I don't know. I don't think the show is gonna go in a direction where they reveal a one true Morty again. Getting back to previous conversations. I don't know how long all of those Mortys have been stuck together, but if it's been long enough to develop some sort of Morty religion, that's their thing.
Have you ever seen The Mist?
No.
Okay. First of all, if you want to be depressed for 2 days after you finish watching the movie, you should see The Mist. But other than that, which by the way, that was one of the movies I saw in the theater, and then after you watch a movie in the theater, everyone walks out and they're all talking about it, like, oh yeah, oh that was good. Nobody said anything walking out of that theater. Everyone was depressed and nihilistic at that point in time. Okay,
yeah,
but
like Solo. No, I'm just kidding.
In the Mist, there's a woman who takes advantage of the situation, the dire situation that they're in, and then she starts getting everyone to follow into oh, see, I see signs here. Ooh, it's a sign. I told you this would happen, and then starts to create a religion based off of that. And so the Mortys that are locked up in here for so long, they develop a religion to find hope.
And realistically, it's not necessarily just Mortys that were locked in this dungeon. Like, if they pulled any Mortys from the Citadel, there could be a ton of Mortys that are sort of Rickless and abandoned, and
poor Rickless bastards.
Yeah, poor. Ah, geez. But they needed something to turn to. Yeah. A Morty to believe in. And
that's right.
One that's bigger than themselves. But I do like how they immediately just think that C-137 is the one true Morty, just because he's willing to stand up and not cower in the corner.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question for you, Travis. Is Rick really using Morty for camouflage, or is it just a convenient explanation Rick uses to avoid seeming emotionally vulnerable for enjoying Morty's company?
It's a really interesting question, and it's hard for me to answer it without the bias of seasons 2 and 3. I think there may be some level of truth to the Morty camouflage. It's the fact that a Rick built a whole dome with stabby Mortys.
That's right.
To try and not just avoid detection, but avoid Rick detection, which clearly you could get away with like 5 Mortys and a jumper cable.
Yeah.
Not that I've tried it. It's just on paper, right? So I think maybe there is truth to it.
It's just bad engineering.
I think there's truth to it. I think that there may be an element to that, and I think that maybe that is for some Ricks why they keep their Morty around. I don't necessarily believe that is the only reason C-137 Rick keeps Morty around, because I do think that maybe the Rickest Rick is unique in his emotional attachment to his Morty, more so than some of the other Ricks we've seen at the Citadel and things like that. So and we see evidence in the Citadel, especially in season 3, of a lot of Ricks that have not needed to have their Morty around, right? They're doing factory worker jobs or all sorts of other menial tasks, and I want to discuss that a little bit more before we finish this. But they're not constantly having a Morty with them, and I think maybe that's because they are not afraid of detection. They're not trying to hide because they're living at the Citadel and they don't have a reason to.
Right. Yeah, I get that. That's a nice thought. It's an interesting thought I hadn't considered. So thank you. The idea that, like,
you're welcome.
They're not ambitious. They're okay with just making cookies or working at a factory.
Simple Ricks.
Yeah. I like that.
Which I want to talk about that. If do you want to talk about Morty camouflage? Do you have something to add to that?
I was just going to agree with you.
Okay.
I mean, using them as camouflage is an accurate thing that they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Whether or not this Rick C-137 is only using Morty for camouflage, I don't think he is. It does remind me of, going back to Futurama, using Fry's dumb brainwaves in order to fight the flying brains who are like a big bad of the, like, they're just so smart, and they're counteracted by Fry just being so dumb.
So dumb.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some Citadel Ricks real quick, and maybe it's just the way that we're used to seeing our Rick C-137 operate, that we have an expectation of how a Rick should behave, how a Rick should feel about certain things. And then when I see like a Rick salesman trying to sell Morty Flare or like Morty insurance, or a bunch of Ricks with varying hairstyles, like they don't all strike me as being Rick. They strike me as looking like Rick but not behaving like him. And so I'm trying to kind of come to grips with this idea, like, the Citadel Ricks, are these all really, like, for the most part, lesser Ricks that maybe we're not at the same level of Rickness, to use a Rick and Morty adjective. And so they're like, yeah, let's just go live together and be janitors or something. That's the part that doesn't make sense to me, is, oh, Ricks all want to create this Citadel to hang out together because they're smarter than everyone else. But then they take, like, factory jobs.
Menial jobs.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it.
It is hard to reconcile that aspect of it. I kind of think of it like some people that you and I have both worked with, who they are really smart. They're very intelligent, and they're very capable, and they can be in charge of stuff. And and they can create really unique things, but they just don't have the ambition or the drive to want to succeed. And they're okay with just doing like, yeah, I know I can build a portable gun and I can go to all these crazy places and have all these awesome adventures. But yeah, I'm comfortable where I am, and yeah, I'm okay with plunging some toilets I because I can do it, and I'm okay with
and at least I don't have to put up with stupid people.
And in this episode there's the spectrum of all these different Ricks, and they basically say there's Ricks up and down the spectrum, and evil Rick in C-137, they're right there smack dab in the middle,
right? And then you got Doofus Rick like way over on another side. That's kind of he's still part of the Citadel. He's still accepted as a Rick, even though he's clearly not in the same mindset as the other Ricks.
And then the one Rick who they're like, and he's just weird. He just does some really weird stuff.
A really weird dude.
So for me that's what it boils down to is all those Ricks are exceptionally capable. Doofus Rick shows that he's capable of making these awesome brownies just using liquids, right?
Yeah.
But is he ambitious, or does he have that positive or negative drive?
He clearly was unable to procreate. So.
Yeah.
So we got Eric Stoltz from Mask Morty.
Add that to my favorite bit. I don't know if you can type that in.
We're almost to favorite bits here, Brandon. Final question from Reddit was, given the insane fan response to this episode, do you think the show can practically live up to the hype? Why or why not? Get out of here. Get out of here with your question.
Get the fuck.
Yeah, clearly they will live up to the hype, even if it takes 2 years to produce a season of television. Yeah, I am extremely excited for this 70-episode run. I know it's going to be broken up into seasons. I don't know the exact breakdown, but I'm excited for them to get moving on it and then get those first few episodes out and then see what the production schedule looks like and see what those breaks will look like and see what kind of episodes they start turning out when they know they have that much time to work things out.
Yeah. They have the time now. And
there's time now.
There's time now. Time enough at last. Twilight Zone episode, the late great Burgess Meredith.
Submitted for your approval, apatheticenthusiasm.com.
Yeah, I hope it is my sincere hope that because they now have this anchor, this security blanket of 70 episodes, that they're not rushing themselves, but they're still pushing out content. My fear, unfounded fear, I would say, is that maybe sometimes people work better under pressure, and this kind of saying you need to get this out there. It can't be perfect. You just have to release it now. Maybe that helps or hinders things. And Harmon said he's a perfectionist in his writing, and so if the 70 episodes means that they have to do it on a schedule because there's a schedule established, maybe that makes it better for them.
I think they're still going to have deadlines. They're not going to be able to just stretch it out indefinitely. Mm-hmm. But I think even Harmon said this is the first time where he's really had this level of security with a show where he can really only focus on this one show, only focus on this project, and really give it the time it deserves. And then at the end of a work day, go home and know that he can go back the next day and keep working on it. So, I mean, maybe it will change some things, but the things I've read about sort of the lessons learned in season 3 and the things that they realized they stressed so heavily about in the writer's room that never even made the final version of the episode due to animation restraints or just timing and things like that. Like, I think they're okay not necessarily having it perfect on the page because they know that they're going to have to refine it through the process of producing the show.
Very, very astute and whatever.
Yeah.
Big
Astute
words.
Job.
Bigger,
Dan Harmon.
big words.
Because those are Dan Harmon's words. But I may have paraphrased. Let's get into some favorite bits.
Okay, favorite bits.
Right off the top, you hate me for buying these coins. Yeah, Jerry's collection of R2-D2 quarters. I love that bit.
Are you a coin collector, Travis?
Not at all. No,
I
have way more valuable stuff that I collect in terms of, but and this this gets me to another point that I want to talk about, which is when Doofus Rick sees Jerry's coin collection, right? And he talks about that he can't guarantee that these are going to go up in value or even retain their current value, but they have value to you, and that's what matters. And all of the Funko Pops and the little
Pop Funkos,
all the little cheesy pieces of plastic that we keep in our backgrounds on the video version of this episode, available on patreon.com. Like a lot of that stuff, it's not necessarily going to increase in value. Sure, some of those, Chase Pops that you've got back there, maybe those will increase. Some of these comics over here, maybe in 50 years will be worth something. But I dig having these in part because they're relevant to this show and this podcast and things that I really enjoy right now. So I like that in an episode where they seem to highlight a lot of Justin Roiland's interests, including building Legos on the floor in Jerry's office and certain collectible items. Like, they don't necessarily have a ton of value or will be super valuable one day, but they're things that the individual enjoys, and I like that they make a comment about that in the episode.
You're just trying to justify all your purchases to your wife.
She doesn't listen to the show. I'm not doing this for her.
I'm glad you brought that up though, because it was something I picked up on this rewatch, and I think it was a couple months ago when I bought the Rick's ship, which is above my lamp, for video subscribers. I went to Hot Topic to pick it up, and Chelsea, my wife, was kind of like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, and that's her thing. Like, the money wise, she's kind of like, why are we spending money on this? But she's also kind of like, well, yeah, that's good. Like, they have value to you, and like what you like is important, and that is an important thing for you, and so it is important for me. And I think that's really what Doofus Rick is trying to get after, and why Jerry is so enamored by him at that point in time.
Right.
In the commentary, they're like, like Jerry doesn't need a lot. Like that's all he needs from Rick.
He
just
really just wants someone to value him.
Yeah.
That's really all Jerry wants, and nobody does.
No, poor dumb Jerry. Poor dumb Rickless Jerry's. Let's see. This is one of your favorite bits, but it's one of my favorite bits as well. Red X. So the Ricks come into the restaurant where Rick and Morty, C-137, are eating phone spaghetti with phone sticks, and the Citadel of Ricks come in, and they're like, okay, so just in case we get into a situation where we have to shoot one of us, we're gonna put red X's on our heads. And so that's the start of the joke. And then Rick and C-137, Rick and Morty, they run out and they get on a spaceship and they leave. And the chair runs out and is like, hey, you didn't pay for your dinner. And Rick's like, red X.
The two things I love about it are the fact that he puts the red X's as a very, like, simple way to differentiate like the fact that they all look the same, which like C-137 couldn't write a red X on his face. Like, it just seems like a very uncomplicated way for a Rick to solve a problem. But also that was done so that in a situation that they just assume you're going to have to shoot one of us. But it's really to settle the dinner bill. Like this, I don't know, just very, very well put together. I like that they talk about the scientist formerly known as Rick, and then the Rick looks like Prince. The
Rest in peace.
The Andy Rooney moment, where Rick talks about the critical point of syrup absorption, and I think we can all agree, not to get all Andy Rooney about it, but we can all agree that we all like fluffy discs of cake with the proper proportion of syrup or whatever. Like I love that rant because I know that rant, and I agree with it.
Oh, I get it, because they already look like flying saucers. That's my favorite bit. Continuation joke. Okay, you have Red X on there. We talked about the One True Morty. I really like the joke about the One True Morty.
The people pizza phone chair mashups where they just kind of
Mexican on half.
And just almost all of Ridley's voices in this episode really, really get to me, including the alien that isn't technically laughing. This guy gets it. But yeah, I really like that part as well. He's not laughing at you. That's just a sound he makes every 10 seconds.
Of course, all the different Ricks and Mortys.
Hey, it's a cowboy version of me.
Hammer Morty. Come on. He's more than just a hammer, everybody.
That's right. Stop treating him like that. Okay, I left a few things hanging before we close out this segment. Mm-hmm. One of the things I want to circle back to is Baby Morty. What are your thoughts on that little tease that we're given where Rick sees Morty as a baby? It looks like he's interacting with him. But we are led to believe throughout the course of the series that Rick has been gone for pretty much all of Morty's life. Do you read into that at all, or do you think that there's maybe something there or is it just like one of those like gotcha moments where like, let's just see what happens if we put a baby Morty in, see who's paying attention?
I don't think there's anything in the series where it says, oh, he's never seen Morty as a baby. So to me, it doesn't. I don't know. It's just
Beth alludes to him being gone
for a majority of the time, but she doesn't say like you just met your grandkids a year ago.
Yeah.
Right. Because this is the anniversary of him coming back into her life.
Sure.
She doesn't say like, oh, you've never been there ever until a year ago.
But he's just lived with them for a year. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So in some ways it takes me back to the Simpsons episode where Lisa and Bart are asking why aren't there any pictures of Maggie in any of the photo albums, and so they tell the whole story about Maggie being born, and then they're like, well, that still doesn't explain why there's no pictures of Maggie in the albums. And Homer says, well, I have them in the place where I need, to see her the most. And then it cuts back over to the power plant, and where Mr. Burns says, remember, you work for me, or something like that. He has all of Maggie's pictures over it, and it says, do it for her. Like
classic. It's classic meme material, by the way.
It's like that moment. Like that Baby Morty is that moment for Rick and Morty.
And it again suggests that Rick does have a lot more emotional attachment to Morty than he's sort of leading on to.
Yeah. Okay, there was I think there was one more thing I wanted to say. Shoot. Crap. The alien isn't laughing. Rick's room. Oh, Rick's room. Let's talk about Rick's room real fast. They're
Army caught Rick's room.
There are Easter eggs on Rick's wall. I don't know if you paused it.
I may have seen a few of them. I believe I may have seen a trap from Ghostbusters on one of the walls. There's definitely a Meeseeks.
You may have seen a certain Aberdolf Linkler. There's a picture of him on the wall.
All right.
There's a Dr. Xenon Bloom picture on the wall.
Okay.
And there is a Sigerian picture on the wall as well.
Along with foreshadowing and Easter eggs, you will notice I think this may be the first appearance of the Titanic poster in Jerry's office. Which will become much more important next episode.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir.
Yeah. So Rick's room was a good, and it's really the first time we've seen. We always just kind of think of Rick hanging out in the garage, but this is the first time we've really seen his private quarters.
It is.
And the fact that Jerry's hanging out in there.
The next time we see it is in that music video that just came out not too long ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are our thoughts on the episode. Travis, do you have anything additional that you wanted to add?
I mean, the only other thing that we didn't really touch on is the fact that a couple times in this episode they reference arcs. There's a point where Rick says this isn't a time for arcs, and then later Morty echoes that again to say, is this a time for arcs? And this is really the first episode where we get an arc where something takes place that causes us to look outside of this particular episode. There have been callbacks to other episodes, but this one really leaves something hanging and leaves us looking forward to future episodes where we might discover more about Evil Morty and what he's been up to. So I thought it was interesting that they included that specific dialogue in the episode before having that big reveal at the end.
Right. The last thing I'll say about this episode before we move on is check out Close Encounters of the Rick Kind. It's a game that you can play somewhere by Cryptozoic. Follow them at Cryptozoic, not a sponsor. I did review a game for them one time at Annie Park, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Yeah. But we do appreciate your thoughts for the episode. So if you listen to this, shoot them to us. If you disagree with us or agree with us, let us know. We're on Twitter, as we said, on Facebook, as we said, or our emails, as we said. But that is it for Close Encounters of the Rick Kind.
Next week we are our next episode we are finishing up our season 1 rewatch. We will be ending season 1 with a bang with Rick's Business. And there's a whole lot of things worth talking about in that episode. So make sure to go and rewatch that episode between now and next 2 weeks from now, and let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you have any questions about that episode that you'd like us to discuss on the next podcast. All right, 2 more quick segments to run through before we close up the old podcast. It is now time for the Blood Dome Battle League.
This week is brought to you by our patron, J2. I'm trying to channel a macho man.
So the event that happens is brought to you by J2. But this is, of course, Bird Person versus Morty Jr. this week. This is an epic battle, Travis. Let me just tell you, Travis, this is an epic battle. Okay, what happened? Let's start over on Facebook. Keegan, he says, Junior over there has the passion to kill, just like Combobulus Michael. It's in his DNA to kill. Ooh,
I want to dance.
You got that fucking right, Keegan. Got that fucking right. God, why am I so violent? Okay.
You get so riled up for BDBL, man.
It's all this blood in the domes and the leagues and the battles. Eric Pitcher, he writes,
Bird Person is certainly the more likable character, but if Junior goes full Gazorpian in quotes on Bird Person's ass, it's over. So right now we're leaning towards Morty Jr.
That's right.
think so far.
That's right.
But what actually happened, Travis? You want me to go? You want me to go after this, Travis? You want me to go after this?
Get after it, Brandon.
All right. What happened? Well, courtesy of J2, welcome to another quick mystery. Bird Person wins.
The end. That was
The
a
end.
quick mystery.
And we're done. No, here's J2. Thank you for that. That was your submission. You nailed it. Bird Person effing wins. Okay. Let me expound upon it a little bit.
Let's do it in true crime podcast fashion.
If it's an accordion, right, and it's like compressed, you need to pull it out and let the air come in, right? I think that's how accordions work.
I don't know.
I'm not.
I think there's a piano on it or something. I don't know.
Okay, so Morty Jr. in his young adult form is out and about. He's wrecking the neighborhood, and since Rick is out doing some other kind of Rick BS, doing whatever it is he does, Morty decides, hey, I need help. Who can help me? Of course, it's gonna be Bird Person, right? It's gonna be Bird Person.
That's how you get a hold of Bird Person.
You've been practicing.
Thank you.
And so Bird Person, he comes down to Earth and he tracks down Morty Jr. And in the middle of breaking a telephone pole out of the ground, Morty Jr. looks up at Bird Person, just wings spread, just cawing toward him. What is he saying, Travis? How does he caw towards him? That's absolutely right. You've been practicing this. You've been practicing it. Bird Person says, "Why are you destroying the Earth, Gazorpian?" Morty Jr. says,
I crush, kill, murder. I am Gazorpian. This is what we do.
Bird Person responded, "That may be true in your culture. In bird culture, you are an asshole." How stupid is that? Morty Jr. then stops and he reflects. He puts a finger on his chin, and then he takes one of his head hands and puts that finger on his chin. He says, "You're right. I just needed someone to finally be real with me." And so after that, they went and got beers at a bar, and since Morty Jr. ages so quickly, he died peacefully in his sleep a little bit later. That's it.
Time for another quick mystery.
That's the end of the story. Like, Morty Jr. dies. Like Bird Person's a cool guy. He's like, he's not going to kill indiscriminately. And Morty Jr. dies. I mean, Gazorpians die so fast on Earth, you know?
I think a younger Bird Person may have been a little bit more violent, but
maybe you're right.
He assessed the situation. He knew what cards were on the table, and he knew that he could dispatch of this young Gazorpian over a few drinks at the local pub.
Bird Person knew that this young Gazorpian was he's just lashing out, and he just needed somebody to just finally
sit him a real father figure. He needed somebody who was there for him.
Yes. So something I didn't write in there is Bird Person actually told him, like, hey, you should put your thoughts on paper.
Pen to paper, man. Come on.
Pen to paper.
All right, let's check out the results from social media over on Twitter. An overwhelming 74% for Bird Person, and then a little bit closer battle here over on Facebook with 60% of the vote going to Bird Person against 40 for Morty Jr. So pretty close. Definitely not
on Facebook
completely one-sided, but yeah, for the most part, everybody pulling for Bird Person in this one.
I found that in our experiences, Facebook is usually closer. It's been closer, or maybe just this one, and I'm mixing up my references. But I feel that maybe in Facebook we're getting more people interacting with it, and so there's that kind of that vote is meeting more in the middle.
Yeah, and on Twitter, it's
74%, 74% for bird person is
it's just a puke. It's just a puke river over there. You know, I mean,
yeah, so toxic, toxic puke river. Anyway,
all right.
job,
Well, that's it for this week of Blood Dome Battle League. Who do we got squaring off next week? In the
next week on the season finale of Blood Dome Battle League, we have two XXX names. We've of course got Zeep Zanflorp versus Dr. Xenon Bloom in a fight to the X. You thought I was going to say death, didn't you?
I almost did.
But I said X.
You subverted my expectations and created laughter. Well done,
I subverted your expectations.
Wow. It's time for listener suggestions and short outs.
Yeah, let's move on.
This time coming to us exclusively from email.
Yes.
That's right. We still check it.
Okay, so we got two emails that are very closely tied with content. So the first one is from Kasuki. She writes, sorry, I don't know your pronoun. I suggest you guys review the comics as there are many opportunities. You could do it issue by issue or by storyline. There are also a lot of revelations. Spoiler, Summer's gay. Oh, by the way, everyone out there, spoiler, Summer's gay. You get to see Vindicators 2. The comics, one of the reasons I didn't like the Season 3 final is it shows the possibilities of Jerry getting away from his emasculating family. Granted, Jerry had never met Beth, he could still become president. What are your thoughts? And then, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's hit the second email here.
Okay. The second one is from Ranma. They write, I want you to talk about Doofus Jerry. I'm a fan of Jerry. He gets shit on a lot, both in and out of the universe. So those instances where he shines are nice. So naturally seeing a Jerry that can be considered the most powerful being in the multiverse was right up my alley. And that is also a storyline from the comics.
Right.
So go ahead, Travis.
So, I mean, if you want to go really way back into some deep cuts when we were still struggling for content worth discussing, we did review some of the early comics. There have definitely been a lot of great comics, some different series. Pocket Morty's has come out. We had the whole Doofus Jerry thing. The Summer and Poopy Butthole had a whole run. So there's a lot of stuff to cover in there. And I'm not against reviewing comics. I don't know if it I don't know if it should be like a recurring segment on this show, if we do like standalone episodes where we exclusively focus on certain episode or certain issues of the comics. So maybe you guys out in Unity should let us know what you want to hear. If it's something you want us to talk about, maybe like little tidbits about recent issues, or maybe just cover like whole storylines or things like that. I don't. You're I think have more of the comics on hand in your collection, Brandon. What do you think? What do you think?
So Travis and I we talked about the comics and covering the comics, and we know for a fact that we have a long way to go for season 4.
Oh yeah,
mid 2019 at the earliest, and that's like hopeful at the earliest. So we know there's a lot of stuff that we can cover, that we need to cover. Need to find to cover is the real answer.
True.
I'm good with going after the comics and covering that. And for those who don't go to your local comic shop or support your local comic shop or don't care to read, like we would be happy to cover that, and then I'll take pictures and send it to Travis so he can also keep up with it.
I can buy my own books, Brandon.
Get
off your high horse.
I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying,
better than me.
You
think better than me?
No, but we can do that, and I've wanted to. And one of the things, like when we started in the off season, was I thought like, oh, maybe I can do just like side little bonus episodes for the comics as well.
Maybe that's an opportunity for us to maybe develop some more YouTube content. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. Let's get some more videos out, man. Let's You don't edit the videos. That's my job. I'm not putting that on you.
Yeah, let's do some more. Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's do some videos then.
All right, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, thank you both to Kasuki and Ranma for those emails. And yeah, I think that the comics are a good place for us to look at some other developing storylines. I'm still not 100% sure on whether or not the comics count as canon for the show, because I've talked to a writer for the comics who said it's definitely part of C-137, and then I've talked to some writers on the show who have been like, no, that's separate. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I know Justin Roiland originally was signing off on all the comics before they were going to press, so maybe that's still the case. Maybe he wants to come on the show and talk about it. I don't know. Let's just throw it out there.
Yeah.
But with all of this in mind, we are wrapping up our season 1 rewatch on the next episode, and Brandon and I have been talking about it. We would love to maybe have a few weeks off before we jump right into season 2, and we are trying as best as we can to maybe secure some interviews or maybe explore some of the other content related to Rick and Morty. Maybe do a little bit more of what we did before season 3 launched, where we maybe dig into some character studies or different elements of the show. So we aren't going to jump right into season 2 as soon as we get out of season 1. And if there's any elements of the show that you really want us to cover, hit us up over on Twitter at Rick and Morty Pod, or send us an email, rickandmortypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know that stuff that you want us to talk about, and maybe that'll happen over the summer in a couple of offshoot episodes.
Maybe it will happen. Maybe it won't happen.
Yeah.
Only
maybe
time
we'll
will
just
tell.
quit. Maybe we'll just stop. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
Maybe we'll just do that. Yeah, and if you have any connections into the industry, hey, why don't you drop a line to
Listen,
them?
if you're a publicist for anyone that works on the show, hit us up. All right, that's it, Brandon. We crushed it. Another Rick and Morty unofficial podcast in the books. Thank you so much to Unity for all your support.
Yes.
Thank you to our Patreons who hang out with us before we go live, and then also that kind of watch along as we're doing this crazy podcast thing. And until next week or whatever, I'm Travis.
I'm Brandon.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Oh my gosh!
You gotta play the music now, Brandon.
Oh shit! I do. You're right. I'm still recording. I'm still doing it. Oh no! No, I'm not. I'm not doing it. Oh my. Oh. Okay, I'm doing it now. Okay, I'm doing it now. Oh,
it's only for the video people at this point. Our video viewers, they have no illusions about our production value. They know exactly how we make it happen. Thank you. I looked at the monitor over here, but I know the camera's over here. So thank you, video viewers, for watching. If you hung out the whole time, thanks a bunch for that. This will be up over on Patreon.
Thank you.
You gotta get more of them drops, man. You gotta get more of them drops in the live show.
They seem so cheesy.
Yeah, but so are we. So,
My man.
all right, that's it for us. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
And until next time, bye.
Bye. Oh, by the wait. The last thing.
I already said bye, Brandon.
Oh.
I said no. I didn't turn it off though.
My keyboard died. My keyboard died, so I couldn't stop anything.
Okay. Well, I can stop things. So.
Okay.
So bye.
Bye.